everyone, and welcome back. This is kind of a side departure from my typical hunting video, but it kind of has to do with the outdoors and camping and such. We opened a can of tuna fish the other day, and it reminded me of a time back in elementary school when I was taught how to make homemade sterno cans. And sterno cans are basically canned heat or something like that. If you ever used it, I mean, they're about the size of a small tuna fish can with a lid on top. And back in elementary school, they taught us some camping stuff, and one of them was to make our own heat source. So basically what I have here is a tuna fish can with cardboard cut up into strips like this, and then you roll it up in there and then pour wax on top. So basically you have a candle, a giant candle. And back in elementary school, they taught us to use this as a heat source, and then we'd cook on top of a large coffee can. Now I think coffee cans nowadays are pretty much all plastic, but back then they were steel. So we'd cut it open and create a crude cooktop, if you will, and then this was our heat source. Granted, it doesn't burn as clean as a typical sterno can, but it never dries out like sterno does. But I've used these in the past as fire starters. You know, trioxylene and all that stuff is great if you got it, but this is cheap and easy to make. I mean, you're basically using a trashed can, old cardboard boxes cut up into strips, and then old candles in my case to provide the wax. And if you're not using it as a fire starter, or you just want to burn it and then blow it out later on, you can reuse it again, unlike the trioxylene and such. But it's very simple to do. You cut cardboard into strips, and then you roll it with this edge, the corrugation, up. So you don't want to cut your cardboard strips this way. You get better burn, more cavities for the fire to burn. And so once you roll it up into a coil like this, and then you pour off your wax. Now the wax, in my case, I used old candles that were pretty much useless for us anymore. I melted them in an old pot that I'd bought at a secondhand store. Don't you do that to your regular pots. You're going to get killed in the house if you do that. So get some crappy cookware somewhere and melt your candles in that. Plus, whatever you don't use, you can just leave it in the pot for next time. If I'm not using a double boiler here, and a double boiler is basically where you boil water and put another pot inside, but I'm just doing straight into the pot. Keep your fire down low. If you have it up too high, the wax will burst into flames. It did happen to me in elementary school as a little kid. Like I said, I can't believe they let us do this back in the day, but then again, it was different times. So keep your fire down low. If you start to see it starting to smoke, you've got it too high, turn it down quickly. But anyways, once you get your wax poured, you can pour it in there. Now I've poured it almost to the top in this case, so it's probably right about here. The trickiest part is to try to get your wax to hit all portions of it, and it's not going to be perfect like in this case, but once you get it to burn, it'll all even out and look great. And this should burn for hours. I think we used to start campfires back in the day with wet wood with these things. But anyways, it's so cheap to make, easy to make, and you're reusing trashed cans, old cardboard, and useless candles. Well, anyways, thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video.